Infinite Plane, Saturn Day, 3/28/26. Yesterday we overheated. So we were in the middle of a live stream and we overheated, which really surprised me. But right now it's cool out. In fact, people are wearing hoodies. It's so cold all of a sudden when it was like 90 degrees yesterday. So we'll reiterate some of the points from yesterday. And I was going through the Discord server, and there's a lot of conjecture regarding a certain death clinger. We all know who he is. I don't want to name and shame someone just because they have low standards of evidence and can't see through fake events. But we were suggesting, someone had suggested that this person gets a column in our tabloid to do an obituary for fake dead people. In other words, all these crisis actors, like, yeah, if you're going to say people died, maybe you could write a little blurb, like a little shout out to the victims of fill in the blank fake event. I mean, I'd be fine with it. He's one of the, I wouldn't say a bitter death clinger, but he's one of the most intransigent. I'm like, just let go of that guardrail, or just taste the blood. I guarantee it's corn syrup. It's not real. No, not Dave J. If it was Dave J, I would name and shame him. That guy's he's a rage baiter at best. But he's got a unique take on chemtrails. He believes chemtrails are some kind of emission from the bodies of demons, and that angels are combating them in order to prevent portals from opening up. I mean, he gets out there. It's kind of this sci-fi Bible mashup. Actually, it's some of his more interesting work. I mean, between Dave J's theory of demonic chemtrails and Crow 7777777's vinegar gets rid of chemtrails theory, we have a lot of diversity of thought here. They're pet theories. The problem is to consider the theory authentically, because I really dispute that conspiracy theories constitute theories, because the concept is it's the best working model or explanation for any phenomenon. And if your explanation doesn't improve upon or in some way invalidate a previous one, you can't use it. And no trail, whether it's demonic or otherwise, no trail theorist has, as of yet, come up with a way to refute condensation trails as a better explanation. It's mostly just denialism at this point, and it's kind of a joke. But anyway, so here's what I want to discuss. First of all, before we go any further, I host on YouTube. Fight of the fittest flat earth. So fit flat earthers, that finger wagger. I never listen to him because he's a content thief. He takes your content, he runs on a TikTok, and he wags his finger around, and makes these really smug statements as though he's 100% sure it's true that Trump is literally Elvis and Elvis is Lucifer, so Trump is Lucifer. And these are types of things you hear from this guy. But my point of bringing him up is that this person was recently called out by Jurassic Liars because he had appropriated Jurassic Liars' explanations for what he's been describing without attribution and taking it out of the context, because his take on it is purely biblical. And the fittest flat earther, that's what he calls himself, he is not really biblical. He's kind of a new ager. I mean, I don't know. I for some reason the guy looks related to Fed, Flat Earth Dave. Fittest flat earther, Flat Earth Dave. I don't know. They both have this mannerism, like they were trained at the same facility. It's in their delivery. It's not even their looks, it's their delivery. They don't look alike necessarily. I get the same vibe. Like, these seem to me to be plants, if you ask me. And I'm pretty sure he's a plant. Because the way plants behave is they find some content, some idea, some meme, some concept that's actually valuable or informative or insightful, and they steal it and they publish it on a much bigger platform and they blast it. And what that does is it allows them to hog that conversation. And the fact that they don't give attribution. See, I used to think that was just unfriendly competition. I don't think it's intelligent because I give attribution to comments. And the reason why is that we're building is going connecting people to those sources. There's a web that we're weaving here. And if you isolate yourself and you harvest content as though it's your original content, you're not building a network. You're basically likely running a limited hangout op of some kind. Yeah, exactly. Nate Watley says the Timothy McVeigh looking dude. Yeah, and Timothy McVeigh was a Fed, by the way. You can call him up in Florida. I considered calling him once, but I'm not going to harass people online. I think it's interesting. If you don't know who we're talking about, there's this special agent Paul Weisepaw out there in Florida who looks like an appropriately aged version of Timothy McVeigh. What's McVeigh known for? What did he blow? He blew up what? Children in a government daycare center? What was his death toll? 168. Guess how many children Special Agent Paul Weisepaw saved? This is national news from trafficking. 168. So how is it that as the villain, he kills 168, and as a hero, he saves 168? And that's just one of the dots we can connect. In fact, I'm going to have to do a deep dive on McVeigh. After this Charlie Kirk video, we got to do a deep dive on McVeigh because there's so much there, and I barely scratched the surface. But it's a big part of how I unraveled this 611 code, the association between domestic terrorism, that particular number, and various psyops. But anyway, so Fittest Flat Earther has threatened to kill Jake the Awake, formerly the Orifice. Yeah, he literally threatened to kill him. In fact, I can read it. Let me get my secondary phone out. No, I dropped it today when I was leaving a Starbucks. Luckily, because somebody had said, that's a great phone, don't drop it. Get a case for it. And I got a case for it. And it wasn't Temu or anything, it was Amazon, but it didn't quite fit. So I had to customize it. I had to cut off areas for the buttons. But it's a nice hard shell and it protects the lens. It has a little built-in hook on the bottom. And it bounced right back into my hand practically. I mean, it's marvelous. This technology is marvelous. I know it's enslaving our minds and everything, but I mean, damn, these things are, I mean, like Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently developed technology is indistinguishable from magic. This stuff is basically magic. Okay, let me get into Jake the Awake's comment here. Because the guy came off to me as a sociopath. Maybe it's roid rage. Oh, look, Insane in the Brain just commented on one of my videos. He said, look who showed up, the chemtrail shill. Oh, contrail shill. Oh, I'm a contrail shill. Like Mick West. I remember Mick West seeming very suspicious to me. He's a guy from Metabunk. But the thing is, he's not a fool. He's very intellectually honest, but he's also on the payroll of the PSYOP entertainment complex. He plays a role in it. But anyway, he was known for exposing the drone hysteria. And this was, I thought, was a good move. It was a good strategy, which I use now. He said, if somebody shows you a light in the sky and they say this is a drone, all you need to do is get their phone metadata and cross-reference it with a flight tracker, and determine whether or not it's an airplane first. And we had this axiom. We said lights in the sky that are moving should be assumed to be airplanes first until proven otherwise. You can't start with the possibility, well, it's an airplane, but it could be a UFO. It's an airplane, but it could be the International Space Station. It's an airplane, but it could be an orb or a meteor, whatever people are saying. In fact, Tim Pool shared some tweet about that meteor, I guess, hype going on, and saying that these things were actually probes from the Atlas comet. Okay, here we go. This is from Jake the Awake, formerly, well, he said, Tyler Hansen, aka the fittest flat earther, sent me a death threat because I exposed he was a lying shill. Not a very Christian thing to do, Tyler. What is it with Tylers? We were talking this is crazy. When you go into the Charlie Kirk, Eric Kirk situation, he's got the Tyler at TPUSA who betrayed him and embezzled and probably was behind the assassination plot. He was shot by a guy named Tyler. His wife was in a music video with a guy named Tyler. I mean, that name. What is God going to think of this, he says. He says, hey, Jake, pleasure to meet you. I would just like to formally introduce myself and let you know I will personally end your sad, pathetic, jealous, lying little existence in this earth if I ever come across that little weasel face of yours in person. Have a lovely day and make sure to look at your back because I'm everywhere. See, I would report that to the feds. Sending a death threat over social media is a federal crime. I mean, this is not something to be taken lightly, especially in today's climate where you are the public is already well versed in this, because it used to be you could get kind of go under the radar with this, nobody cared, but now the public is a little more aware of it, mainly because of hype. But yeah, now we got this fittest flat earther threatening to kill Jake the Awake. And then there's Nathan Thompson. If you don't know who Nathan Thompson is, the neckbeard terrorist, the last I saw him, he was running down a playground, chasing these kids, throwing them flyers about how 5G towers were killing them. And the teachers had to usher them inside. This is around the time that Fed was going into nursing homes and hypnotizing the residents and having them recite fake stories about having been taught the earth was flat when they were in school. Anyway, these are shady people. So we called him the neckbeard terrorist because he was terrorizing children and his neckbeard's terrifying. Well, I met him in person at the Flat Earth Conference in Denver, where we busted down the door with Mad Mike's missile in tow with his limousine. And the first thing he said to me was, have you read the protocols of the learned elders of Zion? And I thought he was joking. I just kind of laughed it off. But no, he was dead serious. And I was like, wait a minute here. This is when I first started noticing that the conspiracy theory subcultures are all government controlled and they saturate it with Hitler, fanboy, woke right stuff and a lot of woke right culture war stuff on purpose. They're creating this. It's like you're a target market group and there's this barrage of things that you're hit with. And so the protocols thing I knew was a hoax. I mean, you can just tell by the syntax. It's kind of it's a parody, it's a joke, it's a psyop, whatever. But he was asking me if I read it in all seriousness. And this is before he was exposed as being another one of these plants and psychopaths. The thing is, unlike the other half a dozen speakers at the conference, he wasn't a sex offender. Except for Mark Sargent, they were all sex offenders, which is really weird. And you can look it up if you care to. And the Daily Beast only spoke to those individuals, which is like, what is it with all these feds and these parolees? Well, they're operatives. They made some kind of deals. And we did a whole documentary on this thing called Behind the Perv, because Netflix did a documentary on it called Behind the Curve, which I got into by going to Denver when they were filming, and I just sort of showed up, and I wanted to get our mascot into the thing because I heard it was going to be a documentary. But anyway, Behind the Curve was followed by our Behind the Perv, because when we had found out, thanks to the work of Timothy Osman, Osman, he found the court paperwork regarding one of the Flat Earth Conference speakers and a close friend of Flat Earth Dave, and a close friend of every other conference person there, because they all stood behind him when it was exposed that he was a predator at large, but he was being handled somehow by these Flat Earth Conference organizers. I'm like, what are these Flat Earth conference organizers doing with somebody who should actually have been put through a wood chipper already? He should have been reduced to fertile, or at least, I mean, a millstone around the neck, something. Defenestration. Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the conference organizer put out a documentary, a 6-part documentary, with a guy who's serving the rest of his life in prison for creating content. Like, this is a disturbing side of the story. So I'm just setting this up because none of these plants, if you ask me, are normal people. So this fittest flat earther guy pretending to be some kind of Christian, now threatening to kill Jake the Awake. That's not a surprise to me at all. That's not a shock. I mean, if I look back at it, actually, he's typical of these types. A lot of these people were absolutely psychos. Who was that one? And look, I have these dossiers. We called it the DIA, the Decentralized Intelligence Agency, where we had done deep dives into all these people. We were mind mapping them out. And in fact, we had even predicted based on a mind map that specific individual, Authentic Intent, that he was one of them. And we were correct. So to get to the point here, fittest flat earther threatens to kill Jake the Awake. And so then I'm seeing Nathan Thompson, who I brought up, the neckbeard terrorist. I hadn't heard from him in some time. Well, suddenly he's debating again. So he's debating on a live debate on YouTube, on the side of Flat Earth. And what they found was, and this was again referring to Nathan Thompson, he had his laptop open. To a certain individual, and it was basically the same thing. A live stream, and they inadvertently reveal something. So here's what Mick Toon, who's one of the guys who went to the Vegas Sphere, where they simulated Antarctica or whatever they did. So Mick Toon says, on March 21st, Nathan Thompson humiliated himself on a live debate, Modern Day Debates. During the debate, he shared his screen where this good Christian, Nathan, showed that he had been editing in iMovie. He quickly switched away, but not before revealing that he had been editing a, oh my, he's probably got an OnlyFans. Of course, this put Modern Day Debates channel at risk, so they had to cut the video, but people downloaded it. It's now on the Flurf wiki. It's not safe for work. It's unknown who is in the video with. Okay, that's gross. Okay, so anyway, Nathan Thompson was editing some homemade adult content at the time of doing a flat Earth debate. Somebody said gremlins. How's the audio? Are you guys having issues? We're on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and Facebook. Let me get an audio check. So again, I'm just pointing it out here. So you hear that the Christian Nathan Thompson, who wore a cross on his forehead, on his hat, to hear that he too, I'm not saying he's an offender, but what does it say about the people in that circle. Like, why are all the people in that circle so deviant? And I remember when we crashed the conference to get Mad Mike in, the organizer, the one who made the video with the offender, he wanted to lecture me in front of everybody. Like, he was mad. And he wanted to express it mostly because we were kind of like off to the side. But, it's, you can tell in their body language. Like, he was nagging, basically. And he's telling me something about how I need to apologize to everyone there. Trying to get some kind of an apology out of me. But when he leaned in close, because he's an exceptionally tall person, I noticed that he had pipe burns on his lip, like unmistakable. I mean, I don't know what they were doing in the hotel rooms that night, but I mean, what else would cause that? It was clearly a pipe burn. I've seen those before. I've watched the Dare videos, and that whole thing ended in a debacle. I mean, there's so many of these debacles that are worth revisiting. So anyway, just bringing it up, fittest flat earther threatens to kill Jake the a-hole, and Nathan Thompson is, I don't know what to call that. His priorities, is it a compulsion? Is it out of control? Does he need an intervention? But I'm pointing out too that one thing you should find questionable is when somebody tells you that they're a Christian. Like, if you didn't ask, and I'm talking about the internet, like if you don't ask and they come out like, oh, hey, I'm a Christian, by the way, I've personally met the Lord. Like, if they say that, it's like, okay, you got an agenda. And what these individuals do is they're like wolves in sheep's clothing. Propaganda Suck says, I doubt it's a coincidence. They're trying to give everyone an opinion that anyone involved in the alternate world shape theory is a ped. Trying to portray rejection of cults ideology is a sin. You are correct about that. What I think they do is they want to create this caricature that the public will hate. So these are like a manufactured template persona that they adopt. And I think they also recruit individuals who are expendable to society and who have, like, for example, the one I'm referring to, Authentic Intent. If people knew what he was about, he wouldn't be able to walk the streets. But I'm like, what is he doing being made the face of a movement, being interviewed by the Daily Beast? And these aren't insignificant interviews. When YouTube decided to start altering their search filter to exclude conversations questioning the shape of the earth, it was a result of what he said. The pretext. He said, oh, I was just listening to Alex Jones, and the YouTube algorithm automatically put me into flat earth content. And next thing you know, I'm speaking at a flat earth conference. And that was like a planted line, I think, because immediately after, YouTube was like, we need to alter the system because it's moving people into these echo chambers. In other words, it's doing its job because the people interested in this are looking into that. But the fear was you might be doing some research for school, and next thing you know, you don't believe in the moon landing. So they really started the fear of memes and mind viruses, at that point. That's why they had the event hosted by Logan Paul, who was used to make this case for censoring Google Video, because he was entertaining an audience of mostly children, 20 million children, and his videos consisted of things like recording dead bodies and electrocuting dead rats. But that's how you know these people are plants. Like, they're there to sabotage free speech. So this guy, then he hosts a flat earth conference. So now everyone talks about it. Oh, Logan Paul, flat earth. He's the guy that electrocutes dead rats. And now he's introducing these concepts to your children. So I just look at these individuals as propaganda vectors, and some of them are used to sabotage free speech. The next conference was hosted by Owen Benjamin, and all the coverage focused on his anti-Semitic commentary and his racist jokes. And so I'm like, that's interesting. because the conference organizers all really heavily pushed how Christian they were. In fact, they had this extreme form of Christianity where they believed that the sky was a big glass dome that was going to shatter, and the glass was going to rain down on all of us. And if you don't believe in the flat earth, it's going to crush you. But if you do believe, you'll be spared. And the face of the Lord will look down on everybody. And they showed me the Bible verse. And in secret, and I wasn't privy to this, but I heard through someone, they were actually sharing an artifact, something they claimed to be, quote, dome glass. So the domers were like a secret society at the top of the conference. And the top conference organizer had this bizarre alter ego costume where he would dress up as a redneck with buck teeth and act really foolish. And as an alternate ego, he got an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he said that he was going to build a rocket and prove the earth was flat. And Neil deGrasse Tyson said, well, this is just an example of the failure of our modern educational system. And that went viral. And what people didn't know was that guy was actually the Flat Earth Conference organizer who was a hardcore Christian who could cry on cue. And he would preach, basically, this as a religion. So he was playing both sides, I think. It was kind of an interesting group of people. But he and I spoke on the phone lots of times, and he would get really drunk and just ramble on for hours. And I heard his whole life story. I mean, I have notes on all of it. And he was dating Jimmy Kimmel's sister. And interestingly enough, the final Flat Earth Conference was essentially infiltrated by Jimmy Kimmel's crew. And they ran some antics, but they didn't air that episode because their main comedian, his name is Jake Bird, had grabbed a woman inappropriately, and they had to call the cops. I mean, that's really, it gets bad. It's pretty scummy because the conference organizer tried to stop her from calling the cops on Jimmy Kimmel's guy. And the security guard intervened and said, no, it's illegal for you to stop somebody from calling the police. There has to be a report. At that point, the conference organizer ran, and then no one heard from him for years. And then he resurfaced a few years later, pushing some crypto S coin called Axion with a lot of other former flat earthers. They went from flat earth to now starting fresh, new. And what's interesting? They all started new, pushing crypto. And I watched their opening videos, and they all acted like it was their first time doing a podcast. Like, oh, sorry, I was muted. I'm new at this. And, just portraying themselves as new. And I'm like, these people have got to be like rented. Like, these aren't authentic people. These people are paid to push certain ideas. I mean, they're unserious about it. But like, to get back to what the commenter said, yeah, I think it was a long sabotage operation. They took a group of skeptics critically analyzing the space program and pigeonholed them, really limited them down to this group of people saying the earth is flat because of the Bible, which doesn't really represent the thinking on the subject. It just represents a small group of people who, certainly doesn't represent the thinking on the matter that gets people to even question these things in the first place. And to me, that's the skepticism that they didn't want to develop, because that skepticism could be applied elsewhere. Like, what if you're a skeptic about NASA and then you decide, well, the evidence supports it and you believe it? I mean, that's what would happen if you're a skeptic. But if you apply that same level of analysis to other things that are fake and you're impartial about it and skeptical, you might arrive at conclusions that they find inconvenient. And if you can see through something like a fake moon landing, it wouldn't be difficult for you to see through a fake shooting, a fake terror attack, a fake pandemic. I mean, there's no limit. If you learn to be skeptical with regard to media, not just conspiracy theorists, but I'm talking mainstream and alternative. All right, so we were talking about the psychotic flat Earth people. Jesse Ventura and Joe Rogan, both of them have brought up the conspiracies we've been talking about. Joe Rogan said the bullet didn't exit Charlie Kirk's neck, so there had to be a second shooter. And Jesse Ventura says Trump bladed his ear, which again, I'm not inclined to think he really bladed his ear. I'm thinking more like ketchup smeared on his cheek. But however you look at these two things, it's just interesting that those two events that we are putting into a deep dive video are being highlighted right now. Like the idea that they're conspiracies is now being mainstreamed ahead of us. I think that's not a coincidence. If you ask me, it's not a coincidence. And the reason why is that what we're observing here, what we're interacting with, is a very sophisticated and ongoing gatekeeping operation. And we've observed this for some time. And I can see how at various times they have, strategically hijacked certain ideas in order to gather that demographic and then target them with other ideas. So, for example, that Professor Jang, who's been very popular recently, then he goes on to Tucker Carlson. I listened to a video by Hidden America, and everything in that video he broke down just makes sense to me. The guy seems to be very inorganic. But then the question is why? Well, I think the reason why is that you want to target a demographic of people. Let's say you want to find out, you want to get all the people who are skeptical about psyops, for example, and secret societies. Yeah, you put out a character who panders to that group, gathers their attention, and then you treat it like a limited hangout. And so a limited hangout operation just refers to the intentional leaking of real information, but then putting it in a context where it doesn't do any good. And then they know everybody who knows that information so they can contact trace it. So they know what mind viruses are in your head right now. And right now, what I'm recognizing is the opportunity that my AI bot presents us. So I have an AI bot and it's trained right now to go down certain, basically the instructions are you fill in the blanks, like go to this YouTube channel and respond to every comment that uses this word with this comment and link. And so what it will do is it will go through these videos where they're talking about Charlie being alive or Butler being fake. And anybody who uses the word squibs or fake, for example, could be target marketed with a link to the video or deep dive on the topic. Because calling these things fake does nothing if it's coming from a mainstream or alternative media pundit. Their frame of reference and their context absolutely nullifies, dilutes, obscures the facts. It makes it irrelevant. We can watch real time the sea of irrelevance and how facts get submerged. That's why I've been harping on the idea of getting off the political horseshoe. If you have any anti-position at all, you are at this point you're participating. You're on the wrong side of the screen. What we're working on here is organizing all the people who are being essentially gate kept, guardrailed, and cul-de-saced by limited hangout ops. And I think one of the things that could drive people away from it is simply the understanding that spotting a psyop is not insightful. Calling something fake is not groundbreaking. The next stage of this is widening the context to include many decades of fakery and then extrapolating from that what you can. And what this great deconstruction project, which is an ongoing thing, is going to demonstrate, it already does, but it's going to be overwhelming before we're done once we've expanded it. But what it demonstrates is systemic fakery, that fake psyop after fake psyop, fake event, fake event, fake event. What do you think these things do in the aggregate? They accrue. They don't go away. They exist forever as figments of the public consensus imagination. We all just believe these things into existence. It's the part of the internalized Truman Show. But this is how hyper reality is formed, through consensus agreement. And the way they get us to agree these things exist is they bait us into interacting with these staged historic events, whether it's on Twitter or marching in the streets. And the way they do this is through creating psychological operations, staged events, these historic happenings that are presented in a way that I refer to as bifurcated. So the left blames the right for it, right blames the left, but they both agree that it happened. But by getting them to fight over the interpretation of it, they get them to assume it was real. And that's where they trick you. You know, they get you to engage with it as though it were real and not just a hypothetical or not just something that was alleged to have happened. And getting involved in any of these pro or anti stances essentially helps solidify the essential reality of the fake thing. That's why I'm saying you have to get off the anti positions. I mean, obviously, no one here is on the pro positions, but the anti positions also need to be rejected on the same premise that these are positions that are only tenable if you accept the previous news cycles going back for decades to be fundamentally real. Because if you factor in fakery, these positions mean nothing. And that's on every single issue. AnxG says, YouTube target markets me with an AI bot all the time. If you mention the Truman Show in your video, it then appears in my feed. Well, I intend to use this to promote a very specific video that says, yeah, obviously this was fake and this was fake, but what does it mean? This is what the big channels can't tell you. Because that's what's going on. These big channels who are talking about it are deliberately doing so to keep it contained in their context. It's a containment op. But what they have done, I think, is they have exposed, to me, they've exposed the number of people who find the idea even plausible. And that's a small group. So it's a very small subset of news consumers who are conspiracy theorists who are also looking at media fakery. And then in an even smaller group who are actively commenting on videos. So this is like, again, this is micro targeting the audience of people that we need to reach. Those who are self-deprogrammed enough, who have enough intellectual independence to actually arrive at the correct conclusions. And if they've arrived at it independently, then they will be the ones who will understand the need to jump into this third branch of media. And this third branch of media is not going to let in anyone who adheres to the alt or mainstream establishment talking points. Not that we have to kick them out. It won't click with them because it goes against their belief systems. And see, this is not a belief system. This is an operating system. It's different. Plain Dakota says, if you've ever used Instacart, your data was leaked. Somebody took me off their Instacart account and somehow scammers need to text me to call them. Interesting. Yeah, everybody I know, I think like everyone in the city got hit with a fake text from the Department of Motor Vehicles accusing you of a ticket you had to pay and then providing a link. And I have to assume a good number of people probably fell for it. I don't pay my tickets. I go to court. If I ever got one, I mean. I actually have not got one, but on principle, I probably wouldn't. I would probably contest it. I've seen people get good results from that. But a lot of people just reflexively pay it. Okay, parking tickets I paid. And that's just because the parking situations have been very dire here. It's one of the reasons why I stopped going to university and joined the military. Is I was just sick and tired of the whole parking situation. It was counterproductive. By the way, I've been planning on increasing or at least starting some kind of cardio or walking. I used to walk miles a day. It used to be 5 miles a day. And I purposefully didn't keep a vehicle because I didn't want to drive. I just, the truth of it is walking is better, not just for you, but mentally, because you're not engaged in, surviving and not dying or killing somebody. You're just walking, and it's a lot more peaceful than driving. I mean, of course, you're a little more exposed to psychos and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think walking is, it's more aesthetics, more enjoyable, quality of life wise. But I was just not really to find it. I wasn't able to find a place. Like the trails, it's too hot. Maybe if I woke up early, I've been trying to figure out how to incorporate walking into my life. Then I get this notification on my health app, and it turns out that at my night job, I am averaging 15,000 steps per night or per shift. So it's indoors, climate controlled, and without even realizing it. But yeah, I think it's maybe 5 to 7 miles or something. So it's not like I'm sweating. It's not like it's a real cardiovascular workout, but it still counts for conditioning. Ms. else has been walking on the treadmill. Yeah, I like treadmills, especially if they incline. What I like about them is you don't have to really pay attention to where you're going. You can kind of zone out a little bit more. Because when you're walking around, with headphones on, you're putting yourself at risk. You got to watch out for, you know, muggers, cars, drunks. I mean, a lot of pedestrians get hit here, but I mean, most of the pedestrians that I hear about getting hit here are on fentanyl or something. In fact, I hear they're building a fence along the sidewalks near this particularly problematic area because so many people just jaywalk in front of cars. And actually, it's true. If you want to, I mean, I could just tonight, if I wanted to, there's a certain area I could drive down where I know for a fact there will be people who are high out of their minds crossing the street who won't even look left or right. They'll just walk right in front of you. It's insane. What's up, Bart Dimberton? Thanks for joining. Mazal says it's so hot in Bangkok right now. Yeah, it fluctuates here, but it was really hot yesterday. That's why the phone overheated. But I'm going to be getting into an office space at the earliest April 10th. That's kind of my target date. So I want to say thanks to all of you who pitched in, who support the channel, share it, whatever, because this think tank is not just it's been going on for quite some time, it's evolved quite a lot, but it's about to enter a very important phase where we leave our self-imposed exile and then we invade. And the invasion part of it is where it gets fun. Like right now, we've just been establishing foundations because the whole point of this thing is the emergence of a third body of media, a self-aware demographic outside the control of the quote trutherism paradigm. And this is a marketplace disruption, really years in the making. And I think it's about time where people will understand. And I have the selling points. I have the incentives. We're gonna create this exodus, but the way you create it is by demonstrating the efficacy of your model and how it's better than theirs. And how we demonstrate it is we bring it to the arena of ideas. So that's where the tank comes in. And as this moves forward, and I'm not going to be specific about the things the strategies, the tactics, because I'm pretty sure because of the level of threat we represent to their establishment stranglehold over alt thought that this has been taken a little seriously. Not in like a paranoid way, but I'm certain that interested parties are interested in what we are proposing to establish countermeasures. And so obviously we're not going to blabber about things, but I guarantee it's going to be fun. Bart says, I have a wrench here. Yeah, you do. Abuse the power wisely. So yes, 410, I'll be getting into an office space. I'll set up my computers. We're going to get OBS, an 800 number. I've already expanded. We're on 5 platforms. Restream has cut back on the number of platforms that you can simultaneously stream on, or they've raised their prices, but that's okay. I can go with the business level for now, but it's worth it, as you'll see, because when we do expand and we bring in callers, these extra platforms are usually the conduits. It's not always YouTubers. If you just got here, the fittest flat earther needs to be reported to the feds for threatening to murder Jake the a-hole. Nathan Thompson needs to touch grass or figure out his conflict of interests because he's editing homemade videos while engaging in flat earth debates. And these aren't just any homemade videos. Moving Master says, I saw Hail Mary last night. Yeah, I've been looking forward to that one. I think they're making references to the nanotech. I forgot the name of the black nanotech. You know what? It was 4.2 light years away? No, 1.19. I'll have to watch it. I wanted to watch it for some time because I think there's some significance to the Hail Mary. And there's a few themes I picked up on, but I want to watch it first. In fact, I'll put that in my notes. I need to watch more movies. Okay, HG says, I was forced to update my YouTube app. It was once a blue wrench, is now a blue shield. Yeah, thanks for the appreciate the support there, Nate. As soon as I get into the office space, we'll have a regular schedule. I'll work it into my schedule as it is. I mean, it'll be easy. Just as where I'm at, I don't have a stable internet connection. And I certainly don't have a place to plug in my computers. I'm working off the phone. But I also need the space to enlarge the publishing wing. We need to get the tabloid into circulation. And I can self-finance these projects to a large degree now, as long as I maintain this. And I'm also going to, work on promoting the book in particular. The Handbook for the Recently Deprogrammed, A Skeptic's Guide to the Theater of Psywar, has, I think, very specific ideas that need to be explained or understood by the deprogrammed, by people who haven't completely figured out systemic fakery, but who are most of the way there. And I was thinking about ordering a bunch of these copies and doing a couple of promotions. Commenter says we should do a group watch party. Good luck. It's like herding cats. Even with me. I mean, right now it's very difficult for me to schedule time in advance to watch movies. It's always random. I try to watch that Frankenstein movie. It took me like a week to watch it. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Maybe I could watch movies during my lunch hour. But watch parties could be a thing. There's this theater here in town where, in order to attract people, because home entertainment's better than what you get in theaters, they've improved a lot of the facilities. And one of the places here has these booths and tables and sections where, yeah, you can basically rent out a table for your friends and you can all watch the movie together, and they have waiters and waitresses that serve food. It's basically a kind of a embellishment over the usual movie experience. So you're not throwing popcorn at the screen. You're sitting back and eating dinner. But yeah, renting a place would be nice because there's limitations with streaming these types of content, this type of content over like Zoom and stuff. I had proposed something a few years ago, and it might be something worth looking into again. And it was the idea of a film festival. And this was when we started doing the art shows before I got initially censored. You know what happened? No, I shouldn't say. Something bad happened to one of my original channel enemies, one of the first persons to have shut me down. I mean, group watch parties could work, I suppose. You know what? We could do it kind of like how, if you watch some of the videos with William Cooper, he would like show 2001: A Space Odyssey and talk about it. You know, I think it might work if we could do some kind of like, half hour at a time and then discuss for 15 minutes or something like that. Because if we structured it, I could make it work. And then we would be able to collaborate and see what other people have seen. Because that's one of the things about this whole process and why it's taken a think tank, is that one person doesn't have enough points of view. I mean, you need multiple vantage points to see this thing. I mean, I would like to go through the 9/11 foreshadowing in various Kubrick films. We wouldn't even have to watch all the Stanley Kubrick films, like every single minute of it. But I mean, there are certain scenes that we could look at from a number of movies. And if we're doing it like that, and it's obviously educational, maybe copyright isn't such an issue. But if we could like find like, hey, in this 10-minute scene, you're going to see references to a fake epidemic, the name Floyd, and a corona, as in an eclipse, and then the sun's corona. We could probably do these meta script breakdowns. For example, every clip of a James Cameron film connected to 9/11, or the James or the Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan films and their connections to Boston bombing, Sandy Hook. Like, I mean, Westworld has plenty. We could also do breakdowns of the various movies containing what I consider to be overt, these Gnostic subtexts, because that's a recurring theme, and it's worth exploring. And this area of research has always been very interesting to me. I've always been very fascinated by it. That's why I got into predictive programming, was these fascinating connections and these subtexts. That's right, we can stream in Discord. Okay, we could just do this in Discord. That makes it easy. Because Zoom is complicated with links and fees and all that. But the problem with it is that this area of discourse has been hijacked by simulation theorists and by other unserious types, because we're not supposed to expose the collaboration, the relationship, the hand in glove relationship between government and mass entertainment, insofar as they collab on staging history. I mean, that's the big reveal. That's the biggest conspiracy. It's bigger than all the fake conspiracies that everybody's obsessed with. This is bigger than Erica Kirk. This is bigger than chemtrails. This is bigger than your needle phobia or any of the phobias they've sold you. The fact that our history is being manufactured as a collaborative result of essentially a merging of government, media, entertainment, and politics. I mean, it's the biggest ongoing successful conspiracy that we've traced back 60 plus years, and it projects to create our future ongoing into the future, unless somebody picks up a big wrench and throws it into the gears. And then what happens? I don't know. Do you want to find out? I mean, if you think about what's going on right now, I mean, not only have they hoodwinked, they put the black mirror, the opaque black mirror monolith, in front of everyone's third eye, but now they put it over our eyeballs. Like now we can no longer discern real from fake. And it's just going to get increasingly difficult. So if we've lost that, it's equivalent to what I call it visual illiteracy. It's like, okay, goodbye Reformation. Hello, knowledge disparity, knowledge filter, and dependency upon authoritative interpretations. Now you can be a free thinker. You can have internal diversity of thought in your groups, but your options are going to be gate kept and you won't even know. It's a form of dependency that has been deliberately created. And so we're moving into this new phase. And I said this a few years ago that this isn't an endarkment. We're going into a dark age. And it's going to look high tech, but it's still a dark age as far as our psychoepistemology. So we're basically screwed. You're either going to be an NPC bot in order to fit in and make it work. Because if you're a free thinker, you're pretty much screwed because there's no way to see outside of this thing. Like right now, we can describe how to break down staged fake events without recourse to the visual data. I call it the blindfolded skeptic. And if you can tell me how something's fake without having to point to a picture or a video, then you're doing it right. Because it's about context. It's about hoax indicators. It's about pattern recognition. It's about a lot of things outside of it's about the concurrent and predictive programming, the immediately implementable political agendas, drills, etc. There are a ton of things that can give away a staged event if you know what you're looking for. But if you're solely reliant on looking at the screen and calling it fake because of the source or because of a glitch or because of a grinning crisis actor, those days are over. Yeah, exactly, Ribo Nation. The world stage is a gated community. Yeah, and we're going to invade. We're going to crash their gate. The off-world stage invasion is coming. I haven't decided on a date yet. But once I'm in the office space, we're going to go into the wargaming part of it. And they're not going to like it. This is not a small deal, but I mean, I think we should continue to play it down and to pretend like we're fringe of the fringe and we're just off in our own little corner, not disruptive. We're actually the cutting edge. And anyone who doesn't recognize that right now is a fool. If you think that we're just some fringe and that you're doing the right thing because you're following the mainstream conspiracy theories, you're being played. In fact, you're kind of our enemy in the sense of where you stand with regard to the world stage. You know, you're working for the other side. XG says spamming chat. I don't see any spamming in the chat. Who is it? Because sometimes I block people. You know, I can spot troublemakers and I just block them. You know, I just delete them. I do that in real life too. I just delete. I don't have enough bandwidth for you. Sorry. Got to close this browser window. Block that website. I mean, I do that. I do, in fact, think that peace of mind is non-negotiable, and it's And look, I feel like eternal sunshine of the spotless mind is real. That you can choose to not necessarily override, but you can compartmentalize If you haven't seen the movie, it's a Jim Carrey one. And in it, this couple has a terrible relationship and they go to this clinic where you can have your memories of somebody deleted. And I look at pictures from the past because the phone will say, "Hey, your happy memory from this day 2 years ago." And it's like, "Oh, great." And I see they recognize either of those people. I don't recognize myself. John Francis says, "Please cease." Um, I don't know what you're referring to. I assume somebody's spamming somewhere. What are they? What's their username? I mean, where do people get the time? I wish I had time to go spam people's channels. It's probably some chemtrail fanatic. Those people are super insecure about their beliefs. They're like, "Oh, you're questioning my beliefs. I am triggered now." Okay, I think I found it. Okay, I'm looking at my live video. I'm trying to get to the comment section so I can get some context because apparently there's a spammer in here. Howard Boyd says, "Oh no, Howard Boyd's cool. He's not a spammer." I read his emojis. He is saying the word fake quite a lot, which I don't have a problem with. That's a very important word, but unfortunately it's been corrupted. We have to think about language. No, I can see Howard here. I can see Howard. I just didn't process it as spamming. All right, so get back on track here. Now, everyone here is vetted for the most part. When the tabloid gets out, and it will, in fact, it's going to be a continuation of the last one. If you've seen it, it's called The Insider, INCITER. And by the way, it reminds me, I have a couple bumper stickers I thought of last night I want to make up. Bumper stickers have been consistent sellers, and buttons too. I've been selling these Be Good buttons for Renee Good. I'm a Cywar profiteer. I remember on Teespring attempting to sell shirts whenever a psyop would happen. They'd put the city name out and put the word strong and then hashtag it. Back when hashtags were still useful. Now Musk says you don't need hashtags. You just write your normal sentences. It doesn't need it. All right, again, we'll get into the office space and then we'll work on the rest of this stuff. And this engagement between the alternative and the off-world stage is kind of one-sided because what they lack is skepticism, and they also tend to engage in straw man attacks. So they're incredulous rather than skeptical. They don't really analyze what they disagree with, and they tend to straw man the opponent rather than steel man. And that's always been the approach. We've taken the opposite. So they don't have a defense against what we are bringing forth here. They can just ignore us and pretend we don't exist. But there's going to come a time where the people who are defending truth or orthodoxies and guardrails and government planted paranoias, they're going to be called out as shills, as they should be. And that's a term people get triggered by. Fight the Flat Earther said he's going to murder Jake the a-hole over calling him a shill. It's like, why does that even matter? Like, we already knew he was a shill. Yeah, the word fake doesn't mean anything. Fake means something. So here's fake. Fake news is we landed a probe on the moon. Fake is they found dinosaur bones on the moon. So when they add something, well, they found water on Mars. That's fake. Or the manifesto of a mass shooter is fake. Where for the thing to exist, it presupposes the previous fake thing existed. So it's fake on top of fake. And if they can get you talking about fake, it assumes the existence of fake. And by the way, yeah, you can individually block people. See, I don't believe you need to censor someone. Like, if someone's out of control or you don't like their comment, you can just mute them. I mute all the time on YouTube if they make negative comments. Like some guy said that I wasn't really going to go work and move boxes, as though I don't work. And that always annoys me when someone's like, "Oh, you're just an artist or a writer, you're not working." It's like, I never take lunch breaks. I have not taken a lunch break, no kidding, in like 7 years. I don't take weekends off. I don't get 15-minute breaks. And that's just because I just work. That's all I do. Many people don't see writing as work or art as work, which is insane. It's like, no, it's a hobby. It's not real work like flipping burgers, which I also admit is real work. Mopping, cooking, plumbing, that's real work. But if the work is mostly cogitation, contemplation, creativity, why is that any less valid? Because we're not lifting heavy things, so we're not getting our hands dirty. I mean, I'm just saying people are so judgy about that. So someone was suggesting that I didn't have a work ethic or something. That it's like, what are you talking about? All I ever do is work. A lot of it is my own businesses, but when you work your own hours, your own business, you're an entrepreneur, you're self-employed, whatever it is, you tend to work more hours for less money. So my pay is like when I work for myself is sometimes I'm losing money, to be honest. Anyway, I saw his negative comment and he's like basically suggesting that I wasn't serious. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've already been interviewed. And what would motivate somebody to just flippantly make a comment like that? And it's like at this point, I don't feel like it's even necessary to engage with people who make flippant, uninformed comments like that. So what I do is I just block them. I just mute them. I don't even tell them they're blocked. I'm just like, delete. I don't have memory. I don't have storage space for that. And that's an important thing about focus. You have to preserve your focus. And there are so many things attempting to get your attention, the attention economy. And everything that diverts your intention or your attention is diluting your concentration, which is your power. And I think that perception, focused perception, a sentient being, a willful being, I believe is on some level a force of nature. Like I think we're plugged into the matrix on that level. But if you are completely distracted, then that is dispersed, dissipated. And so what I realized is that there are so many ways you can dissipate your focus, your power, your influence by giving in to provocations. So I don't really give in to provocations like that. And it's not that I'm even raging about it. I've just become indifferent, but it's like swatting a fly. And I don't even do that anymore. Like I see a big spider. There were times where I would, because people around me would freak out. You'd have to get rid of it and stuff. But now I'm just like, no, I coexist. It's like a Roomba for bugs. The hunter spiders here. It takes a lot for me to deviate from my focus. I mean, sometimes it sounds crazy. Like I tripped over a rake that somebody moved, and it's on my usual path. Did I bother to pick it up? No, I had more important things to think about. So it sits there for a week. And I know it fell. but I'm not really going to distract myself, because sometimes it just seems like, again, it's not just people. The matrix itself will consistently F with you to see if you give in and give in and give in. And I find the more indifferent I am to its provocations, the less I seem to get any kind of Murphy's Law like effects. And I do believe in what people call luck. I think luck is a thing. It's poorly understood and it needs a more expansive definition. But I think luck is a rudimentary, I think, very, very basic experience of the effects of one's input. So it's the output from what you put out there. That if you're noticing an influence that feels subjective, I'm like, that's not necessarily just purely coincidence. I think luck is a thing, but most people process it as something they don't control because they're not taking control of it. They're not taking responsibility for it. Like, luck is what I would say is the measurable or tangible or observable influence of your focused will and intent, or unfocused will and intent. And so I don't really think of it as good or bad, but rather as strong and focused, or weak and diffused. And for most people, it's not even noticeable because it's been so diffused, or they don't recognize it. But anyway, I'm saying here that, yeah, I do on some level think that we are, like, your environment is not just background. Your environment is input, and that includes people. That includes everything, but it also includes people and their influences. And you ever think about how much your public persona is a co-created entity, and how many of the people who helped make it maybe didn't have your best interests in mind? Like, people influence people, and I'm just pointing out that we have to be cognizant and Psywar aware, because the system is designed to turn you into a NPC Truman who doesn't know he's living on a stage. What's up, Infinite Jack? Thanks for joining. So again, we're just talking about Nathan Thompson creating homemade OnlyFans content, and he accidentally shared it during a flat Earth debate. Fight the Flat Earther said he's going to kill Jake the a-hole. Joe Rogan believes that Charlie Kirk was shot by a second shooter because there's no exit wound, although he would never say squib. And Jesse Ventura told Piers Morgan that Donald Trump faked it, which sounds good, sounds promising, but the source, I think, is the real message. He's someone who's considered to be a 9/11 truther, and he was bashed for years for that. So it's like, okay, bring in the clown so we can discredit this idea. And when you look at these plants, whether it be Fittest Flat Earth or Nathan Thompson, these are the types of plants you would expect. They take a valid observation and they just create so many negative associations with it, you want nothing to do with it. Like, if I had to, like, associate with Nathan Thompson and Fight the Flat Earther, or whatever his name is, Fittest Flat Earther, it's like, oh no, I'm on a globe. I'm not sharing a flat plane with this company. Like, they've made it very unappealing. Like, I've seen these articles about cruise ships. It's like, I'm never going on one of those. Like, one person catches the flu and now everybody's sick and the water's brown. The music's terrible. I can't imagine eating on one of those things. Like, no thanks. Just where are the icebergs when you need them? Plain Dakota says, I look forward to future beefs with other creators. I don't believe in beefing. I believe in interviewing, because I want to understand and reverse engineer and use debate for what it's for. It's not a show of force. which is how the circuses run these things today. But it's an exploration of ideas according to, well, certain formal rules of logic, but also just good faith claims and statements. Anyway, my battery's about to die. I will keep you updated, but yeah, just a heads up. I put in a lot of overtime. We're guaranteed we're going to be in an office space April 10th, if not a day sooner. But that's my target. We'll see you all in Discord.